Alright guys, so today we're going to go over the triple EMA or exponential moving average trading strategy. It's a pretty decent trading strategy for beginners or pros alike to spot decent entries and exits. You do need to watch it. I mean, you can use your stop losses and take profits. This is a real good trading strategy for just trying to obtain your 1 RR on trades, right? Your 1 risk reward. Which is essentially doubling your money, right? You'd put 100 in on the trade, you'd pull out at 200, make your 100 back plus your 100 in profit. So anyways, I'm going to go over how to get this set up on BTCC. You know that's where I trade. We'll look at some entries and exits along the way, and we'll go from there. So you can see I have this on the 1 minute time frame. It works good for 1, 5, 15, 30. That's generally what I use this for. It's more for like scalping, I suppose. It helps filter out some of the noise. So the way we're going to set this up is we are going to go to our indicators tab. We're going to type in EMA. We want the moving average exponential. Okay, and we're going to click this 3 times. We have these set up here. The way that I like to do this is, first off, we are going to set the top one. Go to input, it's going to be 5. The middle one is going to be 8. And the bottom is going to be 13. Now, I like to set the 5 EMA. You can set it to whatever you want. I tend to set it to gold, and I increase the line. Okay. I set the 8 at green because this is going to be our buy signal indicator. I set the 13 at red because this is going to be our sell signal indicator. Alright. Now what else you want to do is you want to go to each of these. Once you have them set up, click these 3 lines, go to visual order and click bring to front for each one. And that'll set these as the front 3. And you'll see they appear over the candles now. When we're not hovering over the candle, you see they appear in front of the candle. To help us do this a little bit more, I also like to go up here and I like to, right click on here, and we are going to go to settings. And then for body color, we click this and we lower opacity. I generally like to take it down to like the 60s, right? Let's see, that looks like a little too much. I do like a little color. Let's put it at 65, okay? Let's take the red, drop it down to 65. And I don't mind the borders being solid, and I don't mind the wicks, right? That's fine, just the bodies, because we want to clearly see these indicators passing through the candles. So now what we're going to do, our 5 is our confirmation line, the gold. And as I said, 8 is take longs, 13 is just take shorts. So let's just look back for a little bit. There's a couple ways that this works, right? So that is, we are either going to wait for the 5 to cross over both of these. So for instance, here we can see that the 5 crossed over the 8 and 13, and then the 8 was on top, right? So that was indicating that we are going to take a long, and we would have taken a long right here after this crossover, right? And we would have ridden this long all the way until we saw this next crossover where the 5 crossed over both lines, and we would have gotten out here, okay? Now there's another way to play this. This is another good example, is you wait for the crossover, right? You wait for a candle to cross over all 3 of these lines, and then you wait for it to print above the crossover. So here you see we had the crossover, right? Let's see. You can see right here we had the crossover. Okay, and then right here we had the candle print above, and we had this candle here cross over all the lines. So then you would have taken a sell, a long position here, and you would have ridden it again up until the closeout. Right, so let's back out here. Let's look for another good indicator. So here, okay, you can see we had the crossover, the 5 crossed over all 3 lines. We had the candle break, then we had a candle print. Okay, and we would have taken a short here. We can see the red lines on top, the 13, and we can see we would have ridden it way down here. Plenty of profit, gotten out. Now again, we could have ridden it if we were only going on the trading indicators. We would have ridden it until this crossover and gotten out, right? All depends on where you're setting your stop losses, if you're paying attention to what's going on. But you can see here, we had a bounce. Do you see that? You do not want to get in mid-trend, right? You're only looking to get in at crossovers, and sometimes they're false signals, right? Look right here. We had a crossover, we had the red line on top, and we had a candle print after the broke through. It did go, right? If you had taken right here, you could have gotten a little profit riding it to here, right? If you had taken it right here at 447, you could have ridden it down here. You know, $200, that's generally close to a 1 RR. Right, so it does work. It's not as deep as some of these, like, you know, right here. Now you can see right here we have the crossover, right? We have the crossover of the 5 over the 8. The green line's on top. The candle broke even though it wasn't good. We had a solid break here and you can get in. Boop. All right, and you ride all the way up. Right here, you'd be like, that'd be a good place to get in. You'd be right. But again, it's mid-trend, so it's risky because sometimes these mid-trends, they just instantly shift. Here you can see we had a crossover, right? We had this candle pierce, we had the crossover, and it printed above, but it printed a red candle above, so you would not get in there, right? You want a green candle to print, right? A green candle to show trend momentum. The trend is continuing. You could have, if you jumped the gun, you would have made profit, but again, it would have been a little tighter. Right, so here you can see we had a bump. You still could have written that down, but this was our entry right here, right? We had the crossover of the 5 over the 13, the red printed, the candle broke all 3, then we had a candle print again below, and then again we rode the trend. So that's how this works. It's very reliable. You can even see sometimes when these bars just barely touch, right? It still shot up plenty. Right here, we just had this happen a few minutes ago. Crossover, the bar broke. You'd get in here, and you would have ridden it up to here, like you would have gotten in right here at 748, and you would have ridden it up to 816. That wouldn't have been a full 1 RR, but again, this is still printing, right? We're right here on this candle. If you had waited and only played the signals, maybe you could have gotten in on this bar, right? But again, if you're trying to do all the confirmations for the most guaranteed entries and exits, you want the crossover at the 5 of both of these. You want the candle to pierce all 3, and then you want to print above. Printed above, it would have been a signal to get in. But again, a motion, because you would have printed here, it would have gone up, and then you would have seen this candle crash. All right, and then it would have come all the way back up and gone back up to here, and now we're on this candle. So not every trade's a good trade, guys. I want to tell you that, but you can increase your odds by trading the indicators and the trends in the market. And this is a very good indicator set to do just that. You know, you can see we have lots of good indicators here that track the market. Another one here. We have our crossover of both, the red on top, and we wrote a nice signal. Right, all the way down you could have written it because again they didn't cross until here, but you see here, look, we had a cross here, we had a print, very short-lived, right? Still almost $200 though, so you could have gotten your 1 RR, but then down it went again. The next crossover, the bump, again you'd have gotten out there. All right, guys, I appreciate your time. Have a good one.